Hello and welcome to the StopDevaluation podcast. I'm your host and founder of the StopDevaluation movement, Melody Hilton. The heart of this movement is to see the value in all of humanity and live courageous lifestyles of using our power for good instead of harm. We can affect change by choosing validation over judgment, and I hope you'll take your place and make a positive impact in this world. Every human being has basic underlying needs, the needs of safety, acceptance, and validation. And when these foundational needs are met, no matter our age, there is emotional health. In today's episode, we will talk with Eloises Grobbelaar, who speaks from her own struggles with self-worth when she says, "When you do not find validation in the right places, you will look for it in all the wrong places." Growing up in South Africa in the midst of the apartheid and later moving to the UK with her husband, she found herself working with special needs children and in the process learned so many powerful principles that apply to every child, teenager, and adult. Thank you for joining us today on My Story. Eloise, I am so excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you. I'm very excited about this as well. And it's a great opportunity for me to just say how everything has moved on for me and what I've been able to learn from experiences and implement it. So thank you very much.
Oh, you are welcome. And so with that said, would you share some things that took place in your life where you felt devalued, where you felt shame, where you felt you weren't good enough, where you might have believed lies that shaped your decisions?
Yes, I won't go into too much detail, but you can definitely see how through generations there's been a massive impact coming to my generation in our families. My mum's story sounds a bit like a tragic movie, whilst my dad's story was definitely one of never being good enough and never meeting the expectations that were held by his parents. So from what I know now, my mum suffered a lot of traumas, but nonetheless, when we arrived, she was determined to love us as best she could. My dad, although he tried hard, I think, it wasn't as easy. He had regular anger outbursts, and these were often accompanied by violence. So this had a massive impact on me growing up. I could see how it impacted on my mother, especially, and obviously my siblings. And I was sexually abused by an uncle. I grew up very unsure of myself, and I never had any faith in my abilities. So I grew up during the apartheid time in South Africa, and because of how structured everything was during that time, as well as what my family was like, I was always an obedient, good girl. So despite everything that was going on, I was really always just trying very hard to do the right thing and not upset anyone. So the main thing was just never feeling like you're ever good enough, not feeling fully loved, definitely feeling like your abilities will never be able to bring you very far.
Yes. Eloise, could you share with me, even in the midst of all the things you experienced growing up, were there any individuals in your life that saw your value, saw your worth, that modeled something different than maybe your father modeled or what you experienced?
Growing up, my mum really was trying, despite struggling with things in herself, she really did try to give us a lot of unconditional love and boost us. And if it wasn't for the fact that my dad's behaviors and outbursts were so big, I think that would have definitely helped to not combat, but work against what we were experiencing from that side. But because the stuff on that side was so big, it couldn't really cut through it. But it definitely helped for those basics to be understood, that someone face that you can do stuff. And I am really thankful that she was able to do that. I definitely. And then so I think my real saving grace was that I met my husband. He came along at just the right time. So I was ready to give up on hope and just ready to go off the rails. I had tried to be such a good person for so long, and it was never enough. So I thought I just let go. And at that precise moment, basically, I met him, and he was so different from the other guys I'd been dating. So I'd been dating one guy after another, constantly looking for that validation, hoping for some, for that feeling of being good enough and being special enough, and never got it. So I was really not in a great space, but he was so calm and level-headed, and he just loved me fully. And he's always been the one who believed in me and the one who's encouraged me. As I look back over the years when he came into my life, he is my saving grace. Definitely, that was the one thing that changed my life's direction.
Isn't it so beautiful to have someone that sees your value, that it has such an ability to cause you to think, maybe all those things were not true. Maybe it wasn't my fault, or maybe it wasn't that something was wrong with me, but my father didn't have the ability to give me what I needed. So here there was an individual that saw past all the insecurities to see the value that you held. That is really beautiful.
Yes, it is. It is extraordinary how we are absolutely wired for that, and we will search for it until we get it. And if we've been taught the wrong ways of searching for it, then it can affect us immensely. Well, it affects us immensely either way, doesn't it? But if you don't know where to go and find it in the right places, you will go look for it in the wrong places, which is what I was doing at that stage.
Very, very well said. It's so true. I know that there was a process. I know it took time for you to even come to a place where you now have become a generator of value. And one thing I love about your story, I would love for you to share with us how you began to work with special needs children and how you learned so much from that as you generated value in many that have not been valued within society.
Yes, so we decided to just come and travel for a couple of years in the United Kingdom, or to stay in the United Kingdom. We decided to come and teach here. So initially my husband was a pilot, and I studied sports science, specifically looking at children's brain development in terms of motor skills, fine and gross motor skills, so all around sports basically. I got a job in a school for autistic learners, high school age, so from 11 to 16, and didn't know much about autism at all, so it was a big learning curve for me. I found, as I got a feeling for the work and for the children I was working with, that I became quite good at figuring out what the underlying problems were, because autistic children often have a bad rap for behavior. So big explosive behaviors, quite without seeing it coming, just random, and I found that I could figure it out, and as a result had was able to really support children in not only by my interventions that I was able to put in, but also by teaching them to understand themselves. And that was the start of me thinking about my own life, but I hadn't yet really made all the links. So then my own children came along, and my husband also works with autistic children, and we started using these same strategies naturally, because when you're a teacher working in special needs and working so intensely with children, you don't only teach them subject stuff, you're basically parenting. And we were just implementing those same strategies naturally on our own children. We were like, oh, hold on, it's the same stuff. And it comes from the same places. So although things look differently for different people, it actually comes from those basic underlying needs that we all have, wanting to feel safe and accepted and valued. And so I started digging more into brain science, into neuroscience, and because I'd studied brain science in my initial degree, although along looking at other parts of it, I was really able to understand a lot of it and connected with emotional intelligence. And it's just so incredible how they fit perfectly, and how it's the same for all people, whether you are, it doesn't matter what your diagnosis or not your diagnosis is. You know, I can now look at myself and go, okay, that's why that, and that's why that, and that. And because you're able to then reflect on things and identify things, you can make changes. And I think that is so powerful, that we're able to take control of what happened to us by forming stories around it and understanding it, and then deciding where to go forward with it, how to go forward with it.
That is beautiful. In actuality, you have learned that no matter the diagnosis, no matter where somebody is at, no matter what their experience is, every human being has the same basic core needs, and how we're all wired to feel safe. We're all wired to be accepted. We're all wired to be valued. And when we don't have that, we suffer. But when we are able to give that to others, it helps bring emotional health to them, no matter who they are, no matter where they are, no matter what age they are, no matter what they've experienced. Wow.
That's right. I've worked with a variety of children. I've supported families with both the parents and the children, and it all comes down to the same thing in the end. So as you start digging a little bit, I believe we are absolutely wired to be able to do more once those gaps are filled. But because of our experiencing, we have gaps, and we have gaps in different places because of different experiences. But once you're able to figure out where those gaps are, you can start just filling them in with a missing bit. And what I want for my children and for the children I work with is to fill those gaps as much as possible, so that they have a level, basically, so that, you know, I'd like their base to have as few gaps as possible, so that they are already 20 steps further than where I am now. As a young adult, I'd like them to already be equipped, because if I can impact on people the way I feel really passionate to do now, with my gaps not completely leveled out yet, imagine the impact they can go and have on the world if they have their gaps filled, because it will mean that their empathy will be so much stronger. ability to manage relationships will be so much easier because they won't be triggered so easily as I'm triggered by certain behaviors. Certain things just take you right back to your defaults when you have deep grooves. I have found in my own life how much, when you are focusing on the changes, how much of it is possible for you.
Yes.
And although I'm still a little bit unsure of myself, don't always have complete faith in my abilities, I do know I can go and make a difference. I feel really passionate about trying to do the best for children because I know that as a child, these pathways are easier to form than as an adult.
Yes.
So I really want to, my passion is, although I enjoy working with parents as well and enjoy helping them understand themselves and have some understanding and grace for themselves because they can then explain what's going on. My passion is absolutely impacting on the children while their brains are growing so rapidly so that we don't even get to this point where we have to reflect and work so hard at filling those gaps.
So I'm hearing two basic things from you. First of all, I love your authenticity when you talked about still dealing with those things, still being triggered. And even though you've made great headway, one thing that you've communicated is that you have really developed skills to be able to keep walking out your healing, keep walking out your health, continue to rewire your brain. Just you being aware that you're a work in progress, just being aware that there are some gaps, just being aware that there are some things that still trigger you has already empowered you to walk through them when that happens. This is powerful for you personally, but then on the flip side, you're recognizing the more I give to young people, the more they will not have to deal with what I have to deal with. So the very fact of you giving automatically feeds back into you. The moment you give is the moment you begin to receive. The moment you invest into somebody else helps heal you even on a greater level because whenever you do the right thing, it feels good. Whenever you help somebody else, it actually helps you. So you're walking out your healing one by the things that you've learned and even the journey that you've already had, but also the ability to do this for others helps heal you. And those are powerful principles that rewire our brain. And you're doing that by your very lifestyle. You're not hiding in a room, pitying yourself, but you're rising up and you're investing into a generation of young people, generating value in them. And in the process, you're being healed as well. That's powerful.
Thank you for summing it up so well. That's a really good summary. That's a very powerful way to say it. I was delivering behavior training yesterday to staff members of a school. I was explaining to the staff members just how the developing brain works, but not only the developing brain, also just looking at how we are triggered by certain things and what happens in the brain for everyone. And as I was talking, I could see on the facial expressions just how hard it hit home to them as adults and reflecting on themselves. And I said, I want you to understand that this is not you doing stuff for the children. This is about you understanding yourself and therefore understanding the children. And as you're equipping the kids, you're equipping yourself, because the one can't happen without the other. They basically constantly feed each other. The more you do things for the children who are struggling, the more you're having some understanding of yourselves and able to do things for yourselves. So that was a really powerful part of the session. And I could see it is incredible because people came to learn how to deal with kids' behavior. But from their expressions, you could see how much it affected them personally because, as you say, they go together. You can't do your best for children who are in need of your support and regulation without also, developing yourself.
That's right. The bottom line is every single human being is wired in the same way for an exchange of life. And so what you're doing is you are investing into educators, into young people, into children, into special needs, so that there can be an exchange of life that helps heal our very way of thinking, believing, and ultimately, that's what affects our actions. When I believe good about me, my actions will be healthier.
Yes.
That's what you are creating in your environment. That's how you're generating value. Eloise, thank you so much for all that you are, your own journey, and your heart to help other people walk out their journey of health. With all my love, with all my appreciation, I value you and all that you do.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind.
I want to thank you for listening and encourage you to become a part of the StopDevaluation movement. Be sure to like and follow #StopDevaluation on social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and visit StopDevaluation.com for more information and free resources. You can help spread the movement by sharing with others, leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and most of all, by living a courageous lifestyle of using your power for good. Go out and value someone today. Your life matters, and you can make the world a better place. One word, one choice, one action of validation at a time.